So we are now live, I do believe. Let me just check everything's set up properly and we will start. There's going to be a bit of switching out. I'm having a bit of a problem with the Windows Phone emulator, and I'm going to have to do, or show you the application actually working on my own Nokia Lumia 920. Right, let me just check this. No. This video I want to remove. Okie dokie. I had a bit of a technical hitch when I was trying to set it up, so I've decided to start again. Let me delete that video, yes. Okay. We'll give it a few more minutes, wait for a few more people to join. I'm having a bit of a problem with the Windows Phone emulator, and I'm going to have to do, I'll show you the application actually working. Okay. Yep, that's all looking good. Okay. We will just start. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is actually open up a new Windows Phone project in Visual Studio. So you want to go in New Project, and for this tutorial we're going to be using the data bound application, but if you're going to be integrating this into your own application, just go ahead and open that up. So if you're following this tutorial exactly, we should be at this point. Now from here we want to actually connect Windows Azure straight into the application, and we do that by going to manage.windowsazure.com. You may have to set up an account, but you can link it with your everyday Windows Live account. And once you've done that, you'll be greeted with this home setup for the management of the Windows Azure backend, and you want mobile services. And I've got a couple in here already, but we want to click New. We want a mobile service. We want to create a new mobile service. And from here we can select what we want our URL to be. So depending on what your application is, you can give this whatever name you want, but for this purpose we're just going to call it Windows Azure Tutorial. And you can use an existing database if you have one. If you don't, I suggest creating a new one, and pick which region you want in. It's best to keep it in the region your application you think is going to be used the most. I'm going to keep mine on North Europe here, and we want, although the backend there is this new option for .NET, I suggest you use the JavaScript option because most of the tutorials at the moment are in JavaScript, and if you try .NET, fine, but I won't be using it for this tutorial. I'm going to attach this to my own server, but you can actually create a new database server here, set up all the details. Where it's going to be should be in the same location as the actual mobile service itself, but for this I'm going to connect it to my own. I'll just pop in my password there, and then we click complete, and I put in the wrong password. Okay. Wasn't expecting that. Windows Azure tutorial. create a new database in North Europe with JavaScript backend, and we want North Europe. If that's not this password, I've done something completely wrong here, but I think it is. Fingers crossed. It's looking promising. Okay. So while that's loading anyway, we'll go back into the Windows Phone Visual Studio, and for this I'm just going to delete this sample data because we don't need it, and that should update this. If it doesn't, let's remove this data context. There we go, let's remove that. So I'm just going to do some basic things here. We'll leave all this as it is, but here we have two text blocks, and I'm just going to change these to username and password. Now for this tutorial, the next session I'm going to do is show you how to actually authenticate users using Windows Azure. But for now I'm just going to show you how to insert username and passwords into the backend using plain text. And then in the next session I'll show you how to actually put those in using backend custom authentication. So in the View Models folder here in the Solution Explorer, you'll see one called Item View Model. We're going to create a new view model, but basically if you followed some of my older videos you'll know how to do model view model, but I'm going to run through it quickly anyway. So we want to create a new view model anyway. Let's just check on the mobile service. Okay, so that's created. We'll come back to that in a second. Come on. There we go. Okay, so we want a class, and we're just going to call it account class. And we want to make this a public account class, and it wants to inherit the base class of type I, notify property changed, and we want to implement the interface, and we'll get this property changed event handler here. Now what we need to do is actually add an extra little bit to this, which is the notify property changed method. So we want a private void notify property changed, and we want the parameter to be a string, and you can call it what you like, but I'm just going to call it property name. And we want to create a new, we want to attach the handler, so property changed, and then from here we want to make sure that it's not null. Oh, sorry. We want to make sure that the handler is not null, and if it isn't, we want to create a new property changed with the property name. So basically what this will do is when you create a property in this account class and we use the set method, we want to call this notify property changed method also, and give it property name of whatever the property is. And what this will do is, using MVVM, you can bind to these properties, and when the notify property changed method is called, it will automatically update on the UI. So there's no UI thread blocking here. So for an account, we probably want an ID. I like to use a string ID because in Windows Azure this will create a GUID rather than an actual integer value. So normally it would increment 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. But if you use a string and input that into Windows Azure, it will give you a random GUID. So that wants to be a get set. That's what makes this a property. And for anything that's going to be a property that calls notify property changed, we need to have a private member variable for that. So we want private string and use a name, and then we want to create the public property for that username, and we want to get return username. So whenever we call account whatever member variable account.username, it will return the username. And set, we want to make sure that the value that you're inputting for the username isn't the same as the current username, because if it is, oh sorry, right there, if the value does not equal, no, if it does equal the username, we want to return, else we want to set the username to the value. Now this is where we want to call the notify property changed method, and this property name is username, and then we'll just do the same thing again for the password. Apologies if I'm going too fast, please let me know. Set if the value equals the password, return, so we don't need to change it, and password equals value. Notify the property changed for password. So basically, when I showed you on this main page XAML here, we're binding to the username and password. So what this means is, at items in the main view model here, we will need to change this in a second, but when we add a new item into this observable collection, it will automatically update here, and we're binding to the username and password in the account class. So if we actually go into the main view model, that's also in the view models folder. I'll just clear this up. We don't need the sample property. We don't need this localized sample property. We do need this as data loaded, and we want to just clear out this load data, which is just full of stuff we don't actually need right now. Okay, so here, the observable collection, we want to actually change its type to account, and then we'll just do that the same here. Whoops, spelling error. So now we have an observable collection of type account, which is connected to this class we just created, and here we're actually binding to items, which means that when we add a new item into this items in the main view model, it will actually update in this data template for this long list selector. Now, if you change the name of this, you will have to change the name in the XAML. So here, where it says items, so if I change this name to accounts, for example, we will also have to change this here to accounts, because that's what it's binding to, that's the item source. And usually this will have to be an observable collection, but it's not always necessarily the case. I think you can use any enumerable, but for this example we're just going to use the observable collection. Now we want to actually change the data context, so in the code for the main page XAML.cs, which you can also get by loading up clicking down here where the actual XAML code is, and you'll see the CS file there. Here where it says data context is the app.view model, if we actually go to the app view model, we can see here that it's a type of main view model, and again it's using this this property which we can connect to. So what will happen now is, if we ran this application, we added something into that observable collection, we would get an update in this little box here. Let's just fits all. We get an update in this box here with a username and password showing in 2 text blocks, one slightly larger than the other. Now that we've got the mobile service actually loaded, what we'll want to do here is create a quick class. I would suggest putting this in its own folder depending on your setup for your application, but for this we'll just create it here and call it whatever you like. I'm just going to call it azure.cs. Although actually we don't need that. Let me reiterate, sorry about that. We don't actually need this because it actually goes into the app CS file. So if we go back to the mobile service and click on the one we created here, we'll be loaded up with this admin tool for the mobile service. Now you want to click on this little icon here, and it will take you to the Get Started page, and we want to pick Windows Phone 8 and connect an existing Windows Phone 8 application. Now here it will give you a static method call to copy this into your app.xaml.cs. So this is its own member variable. Now when you do this, let me just sort this out, you'll notice that there is a referencing error. So what you want to do is click on references, right click, manage new get packages, and we want to search for Azure Mobile, and it's this first one here, which is the has the ID of Windows Azure .mobile services, and we want to install that into our application. And yes, we want to accept it. Oh, let's just close this command prompt. So while that's doing that, we'll go into the mobile service and we want to click on data. Now here we want to add a new table. Now the tables in here have to correspond to the correct exact name of the view model that you've created that you want to input into Windows Azure. So for example, here we've used account as the name of this class that we want to publish data into Windows Azure. So here the table name also has to be account. You need to connect because the C# .NET library does not know the type, and when you input the data, as long as the table names are the same, once you publish data into Windows Azure, it will automatically create the columns, so you don't need to worry about that. Now here, these, for example, here are bits we can change for permission to actually insert, update, delete, or read data from this table. Now later on I'll show you, when we show you how to do authentication, we will need to change these, as we don't want anybody with an application key to actually be able to insert data directly into the user's accounts table, and we definitely don't want anybody to read it, so that will always be set to only scripts and admins. But for now we'll leave it as it is. So there we are. Now we've got that created, we'll just dismiss those. Now here you can see we've got two indices. We want to go in here quickly because we don't need these, and you want to delete these three. You can keep them if you like, because they'll be automatically generated when you input data, but we don't need them. So created at can be deleted, updated at can also be deleted, and the version, which is a timestamp, can also be deleted. I don't use these, and they're probably not needed for an account type. So to give you a quick background on how Azure actually works, when you publish data from the .NET library, or if you're using JavaScript or any of the others, what's called is these functions here. So insert, update, delete, and read. Now you can actually change these functions server side. So when you process, what's happening here is just a request.execute. So what that means is when you call the insert method in .NET, it will send the data to Windows Azure. It will call this insert function, which is written in Node.js, and it will automatically just publish straight into the table. But we can do some fancy things here, which I'll show you later on when I show you how to do the custom authentication. So now we have our table. Go back into the Windows application, and if we go back to the app.cs, we can automatically add this reference in, and we now have a mobile service. Now we want to quickly just create in the in the main view model, where we have this load data function before, we can now insert data into this account, or we can insert straight into Windows Azure. So if we have data in Windows Azure, you can pull that down by calling, so we'll create a different function here. So public, caps lock on, public void get Azure data. I don't recommend doing this. I normally just put everything into the load data function, or create another class which would do this. But for the purpose of this tutorial, I'll just show you how to do it, because you can pull this stuff out into your own classes anyway. So we want to actually call await and app.mobile service and .get table, and we want it of type account, and we want to attach that to enumerable async, and we want to attach this to the accounts observable collection. What we want to do here is quickly just, the await requires an async method, so we want to make this method asynchronous. I've done something wrong here. Okay, it appears I've done something wrong. Okay, well, we don't really need to do this right now, so I'll just do we'll just create a table. Okay. mobile service table, type account, and we'll call it accounts. We can't do that, bloody hell. Okay, leave it as is right now, and we'll just show you how to actually insert the data. So we want to create a new account. So account, temporary account we'll call it, equals new account, and we'll put in some data. We don't need to change the ID, because as I mentioned before, that will be generated in Windows Azure, but we do need to create the username. So username is use my name, James Croft, and the password is password. And then here we can call this await function again, await app.mobile service.get table, and we want to type count, and we want to insert asynchronously this new account, so temp account, and we'll just, again, we need to make this asynchronous, and then we can and I'm just trying to figure out, I can't remember what the exact function is. Accounts equals app.mobile service.get table account dot. Does that work? No. I'm sure it was two enumerable. To list, there we go. So wait there. Okay, to list async, we want it to be await odd there we go. So hopefully, if I've done this correctly, it should actually work. Now I'm going to have to quickly switch onto the webcam so I can show you the application running on my phone. We'll put a breakpoint here just to make sure we've done this correctly. Top. I think you have to refresh it first. Nope, no you don't. That may be wrong. Okay, I'll try it anyway. So we'll run this on the device and I will swap to webcam, which would be which function? Camera, nope. No, control room. Nope, that's not what I want. Do I turn screen share off? There we go. Okay, so just need to plug in the phone and just quickly. Yep, so that's connected. Device. Okay, it's just applying the application. I'll go back to the screen share for now. So, oh bloody hell! So, whoop! This cable isn't long enough. Damn it! Okay, technical issue. Slight technical issue. Okay, it's just loading. So, just try and get this lined up just so you can see it. So you have the application loaded on the phone here, and I forgot to call the load data function. What an idiot. Okay, let's go back to the screen share. Okay, full screen too, yes. And oh, okay. What's gone wrong here? Slight technical hitch. Let me just check this quickly. Is data loaded? False, okay. Okay, yeah, for some reason it's not actually displaying the data, but I can actually show you here, as you saw. Can I zoom in? I don't know. I can't zoom in this function here. I'll just show you in the debug here what should be happening. Okay, so this is going on a bit longer than I actually thought it would. Okay, so what we want to quickly do is just create a new resource, new item, and we want a not user control, resource is fine. Oh my god, we need a new XAML file, but it needs to be a resource, not a phone control. Where's resource? Okay, so what we're going to do quickly is instead create a new user control, and we're just going to change its date. Oh, should have actually renamed that. Apologies. So new, just call this resource. And what we actually need to do here, because this is going to be a resource dictionary, but I couldn't seem to find it in the back, so we want to delete that CS file because we don't need it. And we want to change this type to resource dictionary, and Yes, says yes, it's a system Windows. Should that matter? I don't think it should. Okay, so we just want to add these extra bits in here. XLMS, yes, we need those. So we'll just copy these in here. So we don't actually need that now. There we go. So now in here we want to actually create a version of the main view model. So we want to actually create a main view model here, which we can actually bind to using static resource. So if we just type in main view model, x key equals main view model. There may be a better way of doing this. This is just the way that I learned. So here we now have a view model which we can connect to in XAML. So here, where we had before, there was a data context. So if data context equals static resource and main view model, we also need to quickly add this into the app XAML also as a resource. So in here we have this section here called application.resources. We just want to delete this that's in here, and we want to create a resource dictionary. And in here we want to resource dictionary.merge dictionaries, and we want to add the resource dictionary, and the source is in resources/resource.saml. And there we are. Now if we build this quickly, I'll just plug my phone back in. And if we go back into the main page XAML, we'll notice that the red squiggly error line has disappeared, and we have the main view model. Here we see the accounts has lost its squiggly, but this doesn't appear to have. Okay, let me just go back into the main page XAML and work out why this is. I'm going to assume it will work, but we will see. So if we publish to the device, we'll also now have, well, I will, because I've run this 3 times, I'll also now have a third account with the same details in my Windows Azure service, and I'll show you what's actually happened in a moment. So yes, data loaded. Accounts equals a new list of the accounts. Okay, I don't know what's going wrong with the application itself. It doesn't appear to be displaying the data at the moment. But if we go into the account, what we'll actually see is that it's created these. It's created the 2 columns for it here for us, the username and password, which is what we have here, the string username and string password, and it's created, if we're just checking the columns, as you can see, it's 2 strings, type username, password, type string, and we have the data inserted into our Windows Azure account, and it is pulling the data back. It is actually pulling the data back, but I can't. It's not displaying on my application screen, and I'm unsure why, because it should be. Let me just quickly go into this. View models. No, I don't want view models. Yes, I do. No, I don't. Yes, I do. Is it because I don't think it's because I'm creating a new. Odd. Very odd. It is pulling the data back, just so we can see it. Here, I'll just quickly show you. Click F5, and then here we can see the accounts is 0 objects and accounts, but when I step over this, we actually have the 4 accounts which are in Azure that have been pulled down but aren't being displayed. Odd. They aren't being displayed on my Windows Phone application. Go back into SAML and have a quick look at what I'm doing wrong here. So the item source is accounts. It's not requiring any changes. Selection change. Yeah, we don't. It shouldn't matter. I'm personally unsure as to what has happened. Let me just. I'm not expecting this problem. It hasn't. I've never had this problem before. Finding accounts. And that works because we can actually go to it and it's of type account. And the notify property changes password. And yeah. What's the oddest thing? Okay, so back into the main page. Not main page, that's not what we need. We want the main view model.cs. Let me just check something quickly. Items.add. Yes, sorry. I know why. I actually know why now. Why they're not showing up. Because they will only show up once the add function is called. You can't just create a new list. So what we actually want to do here is just create a variable with called Azure accounts, and that wants to be this await list. Now this is probably a bad way to do it. I'm trying to think off the top of my head the best way. Can I just add Azure accounts? No, that's not going to work, is it? Add range. Nope, that's not in here. It's been a while since I've had to do it at such a basic level. Okay, so this isn't the way I would normally do it. And I really hate doing this right now. I don't really want to do it this way. Add account. Let me just check this works. It just feels horrible. Oh, damn it. I bet you anyway, once I come off the stream, I'm going to immediately remember how to do this, and I'll publish it in the next video. Okay, so we have the accounts have been pulled, and then for each account, yes, so this has worked this time, but this isn't the way I would advise you to do it. I'll quickly turn on the webcam so that you can actually see. So turn that off. So I'll actually show you what's happened here. As you can see, oops, I'll pull the webcam. Let's pull it around so you can actually see it. So as you can see, the 5 things have been added to this long list selector. So basically what's happened here is that the get table function, oops, that's going to slip off. I don't really need it on at the moment. Let's put the full screen share back on. So what's actually happening here is Azure the .NET library is pinging the Azure table for the type account, which I said before, which is the table's name. And what getTable does is it gets the top 250, I believe. I may be wrong, it may have changed recently, but it used to get the top 250 rows in the table and pull them into your application. This was to reduce data being sent across, but there are things you can do with this using LINQ to actually determine what data you want to pull, and using script on the server side, making it easier for you to pull correct data for a single person. So for example, if you were going to pull the data for a single user, you wouldn't want to pull all of the data and then find the one using the .NET library, because it's a lot of data to be pulled. So what you'd do there is, on the server side, using scripts, when you get the read script, which is basically a query, you would pick the one user based on the data they've inserted. So they'll, using the .NET library, we can call a read async, and what we can do here is submit a query. So here what we might do is, you might want to create a class which you can modify these. So this may be a read async, but what it's actually doing is just publishing any string to the account. But what you might want to do is create a class with a few methods in, for example, so a query string password, query string username, and what you do here is just put in the username to James, and then when you're on here you can pick what it is. So if query dot whatever is this, pull this data from the table and push it back. So instead of request execute, you would use a different request to send that one piece of data back to the user. So that's basically it for this basic connection. In the next video I do, it may not be a live one, depends on if people actually want another live chat. I'm going to try and remember the better way of doing this, because you don't want to be calling this each time anyway. And I know there's a better way to do it, and I've used it in some of my other applications. And we will show you how to do custom authentication, but we won't be using the tables function of the data. We'll create a custom API, which means that you can query this from any platform which will have a connection to this Windows Azure account. So if you're creating a website companion for your Windows Phone application, you'll also be able to tie into the APIs provided by the mobile service. And yeah, I hope this has been helpful. Please leave suggestions and comments after this video has gone up as well, and I will try and respond to as many as possible. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.